Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel, U.S. Immigration News. We hope you're doing great. In this video, we're going to talk about not ever allowed to say goodbye, what Harjit Kaur's lawyer said on her deportation from U.S. after 33 years. Immigration enforcement in the U.S. has escalated sharply under President Trump, drawing widespread attention. From high-profile deportations to mass arrests, the administration's policies have triggered outrage among immigrant advocates and heightened community tensions. If you are interested in this topic, please pay attention and watch the video through to the end to get all the information. Please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to push the notification bell for an upcoming video. So, without any further delay, let's jump into the video. Immigrant rights advocates are calling Harjit Kaur's deportation, which happened earlier this week, a cruel and unnecessary act of enforcement. 73-year-old Harjit Kaur from Punjab, who spent 33 years in the U.S., was deported back to India, with her lawyer alleging inhumane treatment by the immigration and customs enforcement officials. Immigrant rights advocates are calling Kaur's deportation, which happened earlier this week, a cruel and unnecessary act of enforcement. Harjit Kaur's lawyer, Deepak Ahluwalia, said in an Instagram post that his client was suddenly taken from Bakersfield to Los Angeles on Sunday night and put on a charter flight by ICE. The flight came to New Delhi on Tuesday, September 23rd, through Georgia. According to Ahluwalia, the 73-year-old was treated harshly on her journey back to India. He said that she was kept in shackles for a prolonged period and confined in bare concrete cells. He also claimed that Kaur was not even allowed to say goodbye to her family in the U.S. She was not even allowed to say goodbye to her family or collect her belongings, Ahluwalia said in the Instagram post, in which he described the deportation as inhumane. He said Kaur's family had arranged her travel documents and requested that she be sent back on a commercial flight. We had just two demands. First, to send her back on a commercial flight, and second, to let her meet her family for a few hours. But they refused to listen, the post added. Harjit Kaur's detention in the U.S. The detention of a 73-year-old Sikh woman in the U.S. had sparked outrage across the community, both in the U.S. and India. Harjit Kaur, who lived in the United States for the last 33 years, was detained by ICE officials after a routine check-in earlier this month. As per a report by Berkeley-Side, a nonprofit news portal, Kaur lived in the East Bay region in Northern California for more than 30 years. The Sikh woman was detained after ICE officials asked her to come to San Francisco to turn in additional paperwork regarding her stay in the country. As per ABC 7 News, Kaur was an undocumented immigrant in the U.S. However, this was due to her asylum case being denied. Kaur came to the United States in 1992 from India as a single mother with two sons. In 2012, the U.S. denied her asylum, but since then, the woman has faithfully reported to ICE in San Francisco every 6 months for more than 13 years. Her daughter-in-law Manji Kaur told the U.S.-based news channel. ICE assured her she could remain in the United States under supervision with work permits until they could receive her travel documents, the report added. Kaur had worked for over 2 decades at a local Indian clothing store, the report added. ICE begins new, nationwide effort to arrest illegal aliens at immigration hearings. Immigration and customs enforcement officers have launched a nationwide initiative to begin arresting illegal immigrants at their immigration and asylum hearings. Fox News has learned the effort targets illegal immigrants who have been in the U.S. fewer than 2 years. The DHS strategy is to drop their immigration case, arrest a migrant, then place them into expedited deportation proceedings. The initiative requires the DHS to drop the cases because migrants cannot be put forward for expedited removal if they have a pending case. ICE sources who spoke with Fox News Digital on condition of anonymity say Americans should expect to see a lot more of these kinds of arrests. The new policy is likely to lead to a spike in deportations of migrants who have not committed crimes aside from crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally. The Trump administration has so far focused its efforts on deporting illegal immigrants who have been convicted of other serious crimes. News of the policy comes as the Department of Homeland Security is in multiple court battles regarding its deportation efforts. A federal judge on Wednesday ruled that the DHS had violated a court order in sending a plane full of 8 illegal immigrants to South Sudan this week. U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy ruled that the migrants, all of whom were convicted of crimes ranging from homicide to robbery, were not properly given credible fear interviews. The interviews allow migrants being deported to a third-party country to argue that being sent there would endanger them. Murphy said he is investigating whether the deportees can conduct their interviews in South Sudan rather than returning to the U.S. immediately. Murphy previously found that any plans to deport people to Libya without notice would clearly violate his ruling regarding third-party deportations, which also applies to people who have otherwise exhausted their legal appeals. Trump nabs 30K illegal immigrants, 1,100 gang members in 100 days. Crime will go down, ex-FBI agent says. The Trump administration's efforts to arrest illegal immigrants and gang members will force crime in America to go down, a former FBI agent told Fox News Digital. In the first 100 days of President Donald Trump's administration, Immigration, Customs and Enforcement has arrested at least 32,809 illegal immigrants and 1,155 individuals who were suspected of being part of a criminal gang. Out of the over 32,000 illegal immigrants arrested, 14,111 were convicted criminals and 9,980 have pending criminal charges. 39 of the arrests made by ICE were either known or suspected terrorists. In the same time period in 2024, 14 known or suspected terrorists were arrested after crossing the border. Former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam told Fox News Digital these arrests are making America safer. Like I said before, the streets, the crime rate will go down as these busts occur. Gilliam said, if illegal immigrants come here, they're now going to be charged, not a free pass anymore. You can see the difference there. Gilliam said the work of border czar Tom Homan and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is making the streets safer. It does make the streets safer. Gilliam said of the arrests, they're methodical. They're going after the most dangerous people that are out there and developing these cases very quickly. At the same time, typically they're getting other people that are there in those places that are illegal that may not be as dangerous, but they're being deported as well. One of the illegal immigrants arrested by ICE, 24-year-old Kesey Robinson Alexi Barrera-Rosa, was charged with the murder of his own girlfriend after authorities reported her missing. Lesbia Milos Ramirez Guerra's body was found on April 17th in a heavily wooded area of the forest just outside of Cedarville State Forest in Prince George's County, Maryland. Authorities said her body was found buried. ICE arrested Barrera-Rosa on April 5th in La Plata, Maryland, after local authorities began looking for Guerra on April 2nd. The Charles County Sheriff's Office said Barrera-Rosa initially reported her missing. ICE Miami worked with law enforcement agencies in Operation Tidal Wave, which recently resulted in nearly 800 illegal immigrants being arrested. Among those arrested were an alleged MS-13 gang member, a convicted Colombian murderer, a Russian national with an Interpol red notice for manslaughter, and members of the 18th Street Gang. Rafael Juarez Cabrera, one of the illegal immigrants captured, is a Guatemalan national and alleged MS-13 gang member. Authorities said he has illegally re-entered America on 3 separate occasions and has a felony re-entry conviction. Among the individuals arrested during Trump's first 100 days is Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan, who was charged with obstruction of an official proceeding after she allegedly shielded an illegal immigrant from ICE agents. Gilliam said it's important for action to be taken against people like Dugan. It's very important because whether it is the people that ICE is arresting, these judges, the leakers, or the people in the former Biden administration that allowed these people to go to hotels with the purpose of extending their stay until another liberal president could come in and try to change the laws where they could vote. Gilliam said, new report reveals illegal immigrant population hit new high during Biden-era crisis. The number of illegal immigrants in the U.S. is estimated to have surged to more than 18 million after the Biden-era border crisis, according to a new research report by a hawkish immigration group, which also found an 11% increase in less than 2 years. The report was produced by the Federation for American Immigration Reform, which argues for lower levels of immigration overall. It estimates that, as of March 2025, there are approximately 18.6 million illegal immigrants living in the U.S. That is 11% higher than an estimate the group published in June 2023, when it found that there were 16.8 million illegal immigrants. Overall, it estimates that the population has grown by 4.1 million, or 28.2% since December 2020. As of 2025, American population growth comes almost entirely from unsustainably high levels of immigration, both legal and illegal. The report says FAIR estimates that there were around 11.7 million illegal immigrants in 2013. The group includes, as an illegal immigrant, anyone who does not have legal status like a visa or permanent residency, and notably also includes those who may be in the country illegally but given a lawful presence, like temporary protected status or humanitarian parole. The Biden administration dramatically expanded the use of humanitarian parole as a way to curb skyrocketing illegal border crossings. It allowed migrants to cross the border after scheduling an appointment on the CBP-1 app for parole, and had parole programs where migrants could fly and having obtained travel authorization. FAIR argues that even though they are described as having a lawful presence, they do not have legal status and therefore cannot be counted as being in the country legally. Counting individuals in these situations as legal immigrants or lawful residents will be both incorrect and a biased mischaracterization of immigration law. The group argues the report estimates the total number of illegal immigrants by using census data and compensating for what it argues is a history of undercounting those who arrive illegally, calculating an undercount of around 40%. The report also concedes that estimating the size, distribution, and characteristics of the illegal alien population is an inexact science. In truth, we do not know exactly how many people cross the border legally and evade immigration authorities, nor can anyone accurately quantify overstays or gotaways. We can only estimate these figures based on annual and monthly census data, the report says. It argues that key factors driving the surge in numbers were Biden-era policies, including at the border, the release of migrants into the U.S., and what it claims was an abuse of parole authority. The Trump administration, which took office in January, has reversed a number of Biden policies and has shut down the parole policies and the use of the CBP-1 app. It has also launched a mass deportation campaign in the interior, while also deploying the military to the border and declaring a national emergency. The administration has since been touting a sharp drop in numbers at the border. In February, there were just 8,326 southern border encounters, down from 189,913 in February 2024. The administration has so far removed more than 55,000 illegal immigrants from the U.S. Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday, "They heard my words and they chose not to come." Chicago area center in Trump's immigration crackdown sparks complaints of inhumane conditions. A boarded-up building in a small Chicago suburb has become the front line of a federal immigration crackdown, with growing accusations that the facility meant to process arrestees is a de facto detention center plagued by inhumane conditions. The Trump administration has targeted the Chicago area for its latest immigration enforcement surge, touting hundreds of arrests in the past 3 weeks. Relatives, lawyers, and activists are concerned by immigrants' accounts of what happens once they are inside the brick building in Broadview. Once routine protests outside the building have grown in recent weeks, with federal agents using chemical agents and physical force to push protesters back. Advocates say up to 200 people are being held there at a time, with some held up to 5 days in a space that doesn't have showers or a cafeteria. Immigrants report they're being given little food, water, and limited access to medication. Communication, including with attorneys, is limited. It's a black hole, said Aaron Dirarendon of the Resurrection Project, which has received requests for legal help from nearly 250 arrested immigrants. You can't call the center. You can't talk to anybody. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security on Thursday called the claims on the conditions false, adding that detainees are briefly processed before they are transferred. Questions loom over center, Broadview, a suburb that's home to about 8,000 people, has also been the site of the Federal Immigration Processing Center for decades. Located along an industrial corridor, the facility has frequently prompted peaceful protests and become the scene of tearful goodbyes before people are deported. But questions surrounding its use have grown since President Donald Trump returned to the White House promising mass deportations. Illinois has among the nation's strictest sanctuary laws, widely barring cooperation between local police and federal immigration agents, including for detention. The state effectively banned immigration detention in 2021 when it ended local cooperation agreements between the federal government and county jails. Illinois barred private detention in 2019 following failed attempts to build a new detention facility, and there are no federal immigration detention centers in the state. Illinois officials have alleged for months that immigrants are held at the processing center for days and told to sleep on floors, including in the bathroom. U.S. Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia was part of a group of Illinois Democrats who tried to tour the facility in June. We pointed out that this has been a processing center, but in fact people who have been in detention there for multiple days have shared with us that it in fact is a detention center, he said. It is not adequate to be a detention center. Limited food and crowded quarters. Brenda Perez said her husband was arrested this month by ICE agents on Chicago's South Side while he heading to work as a mechanic. She eventually confirmed he was at Broadview when she saw him on a social media video shot outside the center. In brief calls, he told her he couldn't sleep because there were too many people to lay down. He reported going 24 hours without food. He would beg them for food and water because he was hungry and very thirsty, and they would just ignore him, she said, crying. He was later taken to a Michigan jail. Immigrant rights advocates also claim the Trump administration is trying to make conditions unbearable so that people agree to self-deport. Authorities are trying to expand detention space in nearby cooperating jails, including in Indiana. Giselle Maldonado, 23, said her two uncles were held at the Broadview facility for 2 days last week before they were deported to Tijuana, Mexico. Maldonado described the conditions as ugly and contributed to them signing deportation papers quickly rather than advocating for themselves. It was crowded, she said. They wouldn't feed them right. They wouldn't give them water when they asked for water. These bright lights were on 24/7 and they couldn't sleep. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has denied recent tour requests due to operational security. While the agency publishes how many people are in detention centers, the Broadview Processing Center isn't listed. Tricia McLaughlin, the Assistant Secretary at DHS, rejected claims of subprime conditions Thursday and said the facility isn't used for detention. Detainees are briefly processed before being transferred to detention facilities, she said. All detainees are provided with proper meals, medical treatment, and have opportunities to communicate with lawyers and their family members. Clashing with the community, the center has created headaches for village leaders. While the community about 12 miles, 19.31 kilometers, from Chicago is small, its businesses can draw as many as 55,000 workers. Members of Broadview's 25 Officer Police Force are increasingly diverted to the center to help manage protests. Tensions have flared in recent weeks. Protesters have blocked vehicles, and federal agents have responded with aggressive tactics, including deploying chemical agents and physical force. Armed guards patrol the roof. We have this processing center in our town, and it creates fear, said Broadview Mayor Katrina Thompson. The Department of Homeland Security has defended its tactics, citing danger to federal officers and characterizing the arrestees as rioters. Federal officials initially gave Thompson a heads up that the center will be used as the primary processing location for the operation, but communications have since been limited, including ignored requests to be informed if chemical agents would be used. Federal officials have boarded up windows on the building, which prompted city reviews of building codes. After protests became tense, federal authorities erected a fence overnight that extends onto a public roadway. Village officials demanded the legally built fence be removed over security concerns from the fire department. It remained in place on Thursday. The Office of the Mexican Consulate is among the few entities in communication with authorities overseeing the Broadview facility. They've helped Mexican nationals who are detained get medicine. Ambassador Reina Torres Mendival, the Consul General of Mexico in Chicago, declined to discuss specific details, citing diplomatic process. But she said that the ramped-up immigration enforcement circumstances prompting fear among Mexican nationals are unprecedented. The suffering we are seeing is considerable, she said. With legal battles ongoing and protests intensifying, the clash over immigration highlights a deeper conflict between national security priorities and the protection of human rights. The video shows no signs of easing, leaving affected families and communities in continued turmoil. That is all for today in this video. What are your thoughts on this? Please let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching the entire video. Hopefully, the information is useful to you. See you later in the next video. Till then, take care.
US immigration news. US immigration breaking update. A surge in the US immigration enforcement under President Donald Trump has sparked outrage and controversy. The deportation of 73-year-old Harjit Kaur, a Sikh woman who lived in the US for 33 years, drew criticism after reports of inhumane ICE treatment. Her case coincides with a nationwide crackdown, placing undocumented immigrants into expedited removals. In Trump's first 100 days, ICE arrested 32,800 illegal migrants, including criminals, gang members, and suspected terrorists, with officials predicting reduced crime. Meanwhile, the Broadview, Illinois Immigration Processing Center has become a flashpoint. Advocates allege it operates as a secret detention site with overcrowding, poor food, limited medical care, and restricted communication, prompting protests met with chemical agents and heavy security. DHS denies the allegation, calling it a processing hub, but local leaders and immigrant families say conditions are harsh and fosters fear in surrounding communities.